Zach Taylor, who earned a computer science degree from Oregon State University in 2023, has applied for nearly 6,000 tech jobs and still can't get one. He's at a breaking point and says it's difficult to find the motivation to keep applying. The rhetoric was if you just learn to code, work hard, and get a computer science degree, you can get six figures for your starting salary, says Manashi Mishra. Graduated from Purdue University with a degree in computer science, but without a job offer, having spent a year hunting for tech jobs and internships. It's demoralizing to lose out on opportunities because of AI. Jamie Spory, a computer science major who graduated this year from Georgetown University, has applied for more than 200 government, industry, and nonprofit jobs. These are all real stories from young people you can probably personally relate to who have been caught up in what I like to call the endless Gen Z gaslighting cycle. This is where no matter what you do, how hard you work, how much you try, how much of their bullshit advice you listen to, you still end up with absolutely no results to show for it and keep getting told you're just lazy and just need to try harder. And in the end, after passing through all these phases, you end up right back in the same place where you started. Well, even worse actually. Phase 1, you need to study and get good grades so you can go to college. Otherwise, you'll end up working at McDonald's. Phase 2, you'll need a serious degree in a STEM field, not something useless like gender studies. Phase 3, after the tech job market gets oversaturated to hell because everyone was being pushed into STEM, now you just need to get into the trades. As if you can just snap your fingers and become a plumber overnight after spending 4 years and $50,000 learning to code. And finally, Phase 4, after 4 years of school and $50,000 of debt, you're unable to get a job no matter how many hundreds or thousands of applications you send out. And now, you're left with no other option than to move back in with your asshole boomer parents who will continue to gaslight you that you're just being lazy and maybe you just need to lower your expectations in the start. Maybe you just need to start out by getting a job anywhere, even at your local McDonald's. And now we're right back to where we started in Phase 1. We were supposed to go through all that school and debt so we could avoid working at McDonald's. And now we're right back to working at McDonald's anyways. Except, surprise, it's even worse than that because guess what? With your current computer science degree and $50,000 student loan debt, you're underqualified to get the job you actually studied for and were promised in this dogshit job market. But you're actually, in fact, overqualified to even get a job at McDonald's at this point. Congratulations, you have now fully 100% completed the infinite Gen Z gaslight cycle, where you were gaslit into spending your whole early adulthood working hard and studying so that you wouldn't have to work at McDonald's, only to not even be able to get a job at McDonald's by the end of it.
To get any job that I started applying at a lot of retail jobs because I am not too good to work anywhere, okay? I am not too good to work anywhere. I will apply anywhere. If I need the income, you need the income, and a job is a job, right? I applied, I did the interview, the manager really liked me, but he's like, your resume is so good. This is an entry-level position. You're basically overqualified, so I'm sorry.
Part 1, ghost jobs. So, a lot of you have asked me to look into and expose the recent phenomenon of what's known as ghost jobs. Another one of many horrible, corrupt, and quite frankly, something that should be illegal things that employers are doing. You may have noticed people saying that jobs are everywhere now. You see help wanted signs everywhere. People are hiring, but nobody wants to work. Yet clearly, everyone who's actually experienced this job market knows that no, jobs aren't abundantly available everywhere right now. So, what's actually going on here? It turns out that employers have been engaging in a tactic known as ghost jobs recently. These are, for all intents and purposes, fake job listings that are just sitting up there on LinkedIn, ready to waste someone's time. The job opening doesn't actually exist. The company has zero intention of ever hiring anyone for the position. And you, the job seeker, is stuck spending countless hours of your job search polishing and perfecting your resume, filling in all these BS 1 million job application questions, taking all these stupid personality tests, all for a job that doesn't even exist. It is absolutely infuriating to think that something like this is even legal to begin with. And as many people have pointed out, it absolutely should be illegal. But per usual, employers are the true sensitive, entitled snowflakes, and it's okay when they do it. But why do they do it? What's even the point of putting up a job opening that doesn't even exist? Well, it turns out this is just another disgusting tactic that modern employers, aka modern day slave owners, are using to keep their slaves in check. By posting all these fake job openings, it gives the illusion that their company is doing really well, a lot of people want to work for them, and thus, you better be a good, obedient little wage slave, otherwise they can replace you at the drop of a hat. Now, the good news is there is something you can do to counteract this. If you're in a position where you have to apply for jobs, I'd recommend just using AI to write all your resumes at this point. Don't bother wasting a single second writing it yourself. You can even get AI to mass spam produce a ton of resumes on demand and just send it off to as many jobs as you can. A lot of Gen Z have already started doing this, and as you'd expect, these entitled, sensitive, snowflake employers are crying about, quote unquote, using AI to cheat in work. Yeah, cry me a river, you pathetic hypocrites. It just goes once again to show that literally every criticism about Gen Z is just a sick, narcissistic projection of themselves. Hey guys, we've gained a lot of ground on the most vile Gen Z hater, the angry guy, since we set out on our mission to surpass him in subscribers at the beginning of summer. So thank you all so much for that. We still have quite a ways to go though, and there's only a few weeks of summer left. So if you're new here and enjoying this content, definitely consider subscribing and helping us take down the biggest, most horrible Gen Z hater on the internet. Part 2, the zero-sum game. So we've made a lot of videos, nearly 300 now, covering just how much of a scam the 9-to-5 is. But I've just realized this is essentially our first video covering just how hard it is to even get a job in the first place, even if you actually want one. And so I watched a lot of other videos covering this issue to see what solutions people were offering. And for the most part, it was the typical stock standard stuff you always hear. We need to educate people more, as if we haven't been saddled with enough student loan debt already. We need to retrain people for the jobs of the AI era, as if there's enough job openings for everyone to just be an AI engineer. And of course, my personal favorite, just get into the trades. Now, I'm sure this is all well-intentioned advice, but none of it is going to work, and here's why. A couple months ago, I received an email. I was offered a pretty lucrative amount of money to promote these height-boosting insoles for men, where you put it in your shoes and instantly gain 2 or 3 inches of height. Something about it didn't quite sit right with me, and so I ended up turning the offer down. What I ultimately realized is that sure, it could help one guy get more attention from girls and go on more dates, but sooner or later, everyone's going to figure it out, and all it's going to do is make an already hyper-competitive zero-sum game even worse. And after everyone figures it out, the standard 6 feet tall will no longer be enough. You're going to have to be 6'6" at that point. And this is exactly what's happened with jobs, work, and capitalism at this point. We all remember what happened when we were kids and in school. We were nonstop drilled into our heads that we had to go to college as it was a guaranteed golden ticket to success. That advice was well-intentioned, but we've all painfully experienced the fact that it didn't end up actually working out at all. But why? Well, the short answer is because everyone has a degree now. Everyone's highly educated now. A degree itself has become absolutely worthless. This has created an interesting paradox where Gen Z and Millennials are somehow the most educated generations by far, but also the poorest by far. And the most frustrating thing about this isn't that this advice didn't work, it's that our delusional parents who shoved this down our throats can't even at least admit they were wrong. Like typical boomer narcissists, they have to even further double down on their mistakes because they can't admit they were wrong. Oh, it's because you got a useless degree. You need to get a STEM degree. Okay, now the exact same thing has happened in STEM as well. So what's next? Oh, well, now the problem is you need a master's degree and then a PhD. Yeah, and what happens when everyone takes this advice and gets a PhD? Well, now you're going to need a super duper ultimate omega PhD. And it's the same idea with every other solution being offered as well. Getting into the trades, becoming an AI programmer yourself, starting a business or becoming an entrepreneur yourself, etc. It's only going to work for a handful of early adopters who cash in early before it gets oversaturated. That's it. And don't get me wrong, if you as an individual have found individual success in going one of these routes, I'm genuinely happy for you. More power to you. But at the end of the day, these are all just individual solutions that might work for a handful of people, but they're not viable solutions for millions of people on a macro societal level at large. So now that we've established that none of these so-called solutions are going to work, the question still remains. What is the actual solution? Part 3, the post-labor economy. AI futurists like David Shapiro have posited the idea of this utopian, post-scarcity, post-labor economy as the future. In a world like this, AI and machines have taken over all the labor. Humans are given a universal basic income or even a universal high income to pursue whatever they want in life. A lot of whether this future becomes possible hinges on the advancement of AI, or at least that's what they tell you. But what if I told you that this is already possible even right now? In fact, if you want to see an example of UBI working, you don't have to look 1,000 years in the future. You can look 1,000 years in the past, before computers and electricity were even invented. The Cura Annona was a social safety net program that guaranteed grain rations for every male Roman citizen. Critics have clowned it as being bread and circuses, but the reality is that the Cura Annona actually worked very, very well for ancient Rome. The program lasted for over 500 years, which is twice as long as the failed experiment of American capitalism. The way things are going now, it's pretty safe to say American capitalism isn't going to make it another 50 years, let alone another 250. Ancient hunter-gatherers, primitive cavemen with nothing more than basic Stone Age tools lived very well, worked only 2 to 3 hours per day to gather food, and got over 2,000 calories per day, according to anthropological research. We were always told that their lives were short, brutish, cruel. But it turns out this was just another corporate lie and myth used to gaslight and manipulate us into being obedient little wage slaves. The scientific evidence says the exact opposite. The actual evidence says they lived so well that award-winning anthropologists have even deemed them the original affluent society. How is it that ancient Romans and basic primitive cavemen were able to guarantee food for all their citizens? Yet here we are in the modern day skipping meals just to pay rent. The answer is because we've been brainwashed to work. In many ways, we're already living in a post-labor economy, a world where work is optional. We just can't accept it yet because our society has such a sick obsession with forcing everyone to get a job and humiliating them if they don't want to work. If you look at official statistics, it'll tell you that the unemployment rate is only 4%. But clearly, we've all experienced that this can't possibly be right. It's definitely more than 4 out of 100 people that can't find a job right now. It turns out the unemployment rate is highly misleading because it doesn't count people who have been so discouraged by this job market that they've given up on finding work altogether. A better metric to use is the overall labor force participation rate, which tells us only 62% of the total US population is working right now. So given that nearly 40% of people already aren't working, clearly having a job is already optional as is. Now, you can shame them as being lazy parasites all you want, but the reality is, as we've covered in this video, most of them actually do want to work. They just can't even find a job, even after hundreds or even thousands of applications. I've been very adamant that I don't believe we should all be forced to work in the first place. But if you're a delusional boomer or corporate shill who still wants to force people to work, you've completely lost the right to shame them for not having a job after you screwed up the economy so bad they can't even get a job in the first place. It's time for actual serious solutions now, not more delusional zero-sum games with fewer and fewer winners. It's time for universal basic income, along with a general mentality shift to the post-labor economy we already live in, where we still value, appreciate, and reward those who do work, but we don't shame people for their own personal decision to not work either. Now, I get that universal basic income is a very polarizing topic, even in our own community. But what I've realized is that the people who are against UBI don't have any legitimate solutions of their own either. Their zero-sum game solutions of shoving even more people into college or training programs are just a cover-up for the fact that they have no real solution. Their actual solution, if you even want to call it that, is to just let everyone starve to death. This is why all their justifications of capitalism revolve around a survival of the fittest social Darwinian philosophy, which, by the way, is a Nazi fascist belief system that directly led to the Holocaust. And if you want to believe in Nazi ideologies, fine, that's your right. But just be honest and admit your actual plan is to just let everyone starve to death. And stop sugarcoating it with all these zero-sum game solutions that have been proven not to work. That being said, I am an open-minded person who's willing to listen to other perspectives. So if you have other solutions in mind, definitely feel free to express it in the comment section, and let's have an open and honest discussion about this. But make sure we're talking about actual societal-wide solutions here, and not zero-sum games that only work for a handful of early adopters. So, for all these reasons and more, Gen Z and Millennials aren't growing up. They're delaying adulthood milestones more than any other generation. But I think this is actually smart and even potentially revolutionary. And we go more in depth in this on this video right here. Check it out. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.